Hello, and welcome to the second Mindful Conversation. In this conversation, I am conversing with Dr. Mahindra Ramesh Ramdeen, the CEO of the Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association and a board member of the National Entrepreneurial Development Company Limited. And the conversation spanned quite a few topics, talking about why prices may vary in manufactured goods, what determines what prices might be, why inflation is the way it is right now, the ease of doing business in Trinidad, and for people who may be entrepreneurial minded, people who have started small businesses, or you're thinking about starting a small business, this may be a conversation very key to you, because I think a lot of the information that we spoke about in this particular conversation is very key to many smaller businesses, smaller entrepreneurs being able to expand into that larger area. And very often I think some people lose out in these fields because of a lack of knowledge. They don't know what they don't know. So take a listen, drop a comment, tell me what you think, hit that like button, be sure to be subscribed if you are not, and enjoy the conversation. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
As the name of the series is Conversations, just conversations. And the idea I hope for is that, everyone doesn't have the opportunity to have conversations with everyone else. And sometimes there are so many benefits to just finding out something. Like, I remember one of the reasons I wanted to have a conversation with you, I remember some time ago I was asking you about, for example, why prices are different in different countries. I saw recently somebody posted one on the internet with white oak. White oak in Bermuda or some one of the smaller islands was considerably cheaper than how it is here.
Right.
I wanted to say, and I remember you were saying an explanation, a possible explanation for that, as to just the ability to enter the market sometimes is why they do that pricing. So that's just a simple example of conversations that you wonder about sometimes. So why are things that price? So if someone were to ask you, why is white oak more expensive in another island than in the island it's made in? Why would that be?
No, I can only speculate at this point.
Yeah, obviously it's speculation.
I can't tell. People charge different prices for different reasons. There's something called predatory pricing. So if I produce an item in Trinidad for $5, for example, I could sell it in a country like Bermuda for $2 and make a loss in that country just to get market share. If I have the ability to sell it in Barbados for $8 and make back up that profit there. So there are a number of different reasons. So let's say white oak is a very competitive item in Antigua, hypothetically. I'm facing significant competition and I want to get market share. I want to crowd out somebody else from the market. I could go in there cheaper. Now that's dumping in an economic sense, right? But people do that. There's something also called predatory pricing, which is not necessarily legal, and they can find a way to engage in that process as well. So that could possibly be one reason why in a particular country like that, the competition is fierce. You want to get into the market, you want to get into the shelves. You're willing to make a loss in that market because you're only selling 2 cases, but in Barbados you're selling 15 cases and you're making supernormal profit because you have no competition there.
And if you're able to, as it to become even if you're making a loss, but in name you become the number 1 rum Caribbean wide, there's profit in that.
And then you need to look at certain things too. The manufacturer economies of scale comes into play. If you could sell 10 bottles in Barbados, and now you have a market where you could sell 5 extra, your unit cost of production falls. So all those are the kind of factors that comes into play.
Right. Makes sense.
Right.
And that's the importance, I think, of conversations in being able to understand that. So, CEO of TTMA.
Right.
What does a CEO do? In growing up, I always figured when you hear CEO, that means boss.
Right.
But sometimes you hear CEO, president, chairman, a whole lot of other things. So what exactly a CEO is?
Well, you need to distinguish. You need to distinguish the lines of governance. When you have a board, generally the board is governed by the chairman or the president. and they are in charge of the policy making of the institution.
All right.
Board change, board come, board go, they rotate. In my particular instance, my board members could serve a 3-year term and then they move on. I am the constant. I am in charge of management. I am in charge of execution. So the CEO generally is in charge of execution. Let's transpose that discussion to a business operation. You find the equivalent of a president would be the managing director.
Right.
He's the owner. He has the overarching policy direction. And he will hire a CEO to execute his policy direction.
All right.
So the CEO is in charge of managing the managers, the branch manager, the export manager, and that kind of
So very often, it could be that someone in a president or managing director kind of position, they may not even necessarily be formally trained in any kind of thing.
They might born into that position,
Right.
and inherit that position more or less.
So they could hire you as CEO to make
Execute.
sure that although I might not know all of the things how it's supposed to do, that's your job. I just know what direction I want to generally go.
I create any policy as the owner of the business. I will tell you as the CEO, I want to get into the Barbados market. Go and make that happen. I want to
That sounds like
exports.
that sounds like a very hard job.
It's not necessarily hard because a CEO job is not necessary to be able to do everything as well. He needs to ensure that he can motivate and get the right people around him.
But why I say I find that sounds hard is because you're technically in charge of doing something that isn't your idea or your direction.
If you have a good relationship with the managing director, you will be able to converse and say, listen, what you're saying really doesn't make sense. Let's tweak it somewhat. And that is relationship. CEO is about managing relationship. That is key. Managing relationship is what a good CEO could do. It's not necessary I need to be the best accountant in the company or the best strategist or the best HR person. It's about managing relationship with my heads to ensure that they function optimally.
So a CEO is a relationship expert.
/ manager.
And in order to manage, you also need to be a good relationship expert.
If you're lucky, you could get a CEO that is also technical. So a CEO generally is supposed to be a really good manager and a relationship expert, but some CEO could be technical. I like to think I'm technical because I come from a technical background. So I'm a technical CEO.
In economics?
In economics, in trade, in international trade, in law.
You're also on the board of NEDCO.
I'm also on the board of NEDCO.
So, all right, well, let's say TTMA for now. CEO of TTMA, what does TTMA do?
So TTMA we represent the interests of the non-energy manufacturers in Trinidad and Tobago. So we have about 600 members. The non-energy manufacturing sector in Trinidad and Tobago right now I think is one of the most important sector in Trinidad and Tobago, especially given what's happening in the energy sector. Price of oil and gas fluctuate, but that's not the real issue for us in Trinidad, is production, not prices. So our production has fallen considerably.
That's the benefit of, hopefully the benefit of the Dragon.
Well, we're hoping that our Dragon field, it will help in the energy sector, specifically to gas.
Yeah.
Our issue, we were traditionally an oil economy, now we are a gas economy. So Dragon field definitely will help. We can talk about that just now, but that will definitely help. But in non-energy manufacturing sector, the sector that I represent, we are doing really well. I will say we are carrying the economy somewhat. We are the second largest employer of people after government. The energy sector don't employ much people.
When you said second, I was thinking energy first, but obviously.
No, the energy sector is not a significant employer.
So the energy sector might have more lucrative jobs, but not necessarily more in number.
It's likely to have more high-end jobs, correct, because it's the energy sector.
Yeah.
But in terms of number of people, the non-energy manufacturing sector, the government is the largest employer of people, followed by the non-energy manufacturing sector. We contribute as well 19 to 20% of the country's GDP, which is significant. We are moving towards earning our own foreign exchange because of what is happening in the energy sector as well. And if you're following the statistics, and depending on whose statistics you want to listen to, the non-energy sector has been doing exceptionally well in 2022 and in 2023 so far. And it's only 1 month, but
And the thing I would hope with the non-energy sector, it might not be as susceptible to the vagaries of the global economy like the energy sector.
Well, not so much, but because we're so import dependent of the raw material, so we still dependent somewhat. We are not price setters, we are price takers.
Yeah.
So we don't generate our own inputs into manufacturing. For the most part, we import that. So something like wheat, which is a significant input into flour, into pet food, and all these different things. That fluctuation impact us, to some extent. Things like, we had a significant shipping issue recently. COVID created major problems with shipping because everybody they were hoarding what they had. One thing. And then lockdown meant, like in China, ports weren't operating, so we weren't getting stuff. And that created problems for us. But it was also an opportunity for us to look inward. So you see a lot of indigenous things happening. Instead of importing textiles, the textile industry started to grow indigenously in Trinidad to some extent.
So why don't we look at, well, I suppose Guyana doesn't produce wheat, but I suppose much of the natural raw material would be available in a country like Guyana, which is in CARICOM and is in close proximity. Is it that the majority of our imports come from Guyana?
Majority of what imports?
Raw material that we need, the raw materials that Guyana has that we need.
Okay, so no, we don't. There are two things. One, Guyana can produce a lot of the raw material in terms of agricultural type items. But the way CARICOM is structured, you need to get special permission to bring in those items. And we have some very antiquated laws. So whereas Trinidad need tomato, let's just pick an item, like tomato. There's something called sanitary and phytosanitary. I don't want to get too technical, but basically it says that CARICOM has to come together and examine the tomatoes produced in Guyana to ensure that there's no fruit flies. I'm not technical, but I'm using to fruit flies. And because if you're bringing the tomato with fruit fly, you contaminate your own.
Yes.
That's process that sounds so simple, man. You will be headed. Because let me give you another example. We can't bring in beef from Uruguay, Paraguay, and these are some of the countries that produce the best beef in the world. So we bring our beef items from New Zealand, from Australia, from Canada, from America. You can imagine if we had the capability. And why? Because we have some antiquated laws that says these countries had foot and mouth disease in the 1970s. And we just haven't...
In the 1970s?
In the 1970s.
So from the 1970s, infection of foot and mouth disease causing us today to not be...
I could tell you some antiquated laws. We have laws in our books in Trinidad. Let me give you another example. We have a law in our book in Trinidad. You may not... This may surprise you. That if someone comes into Trinidad in a wheelchair, immigration can turn that person from coming into Trinidad because they can be deemed a liability to Trinidad and Tobago. They have that prerogative to say, no, you can't come into my country. And that is in our law books today.
You see, for me, I'm not trying to pull you into any politics, but for me, this is what upsets me about politics, because in my opinion, that is what politicians are really there for. Not necessarily to get into the everyday life of the citizens, but to fix the laws, make sure that the laws are up to date, make sure that laws that were passed in 1970 and are now out of date, make sure that they're up to date to current times. I would think that should be primary on the agenda of any politician.
But Nathan, it's easier said than done. If I get into power tomorrow, and I'm not going to go into politics, if I get into, I feel I could fix licensing office, and I feel anybody who gets into power will say that. I think you will say the same thing. But there's a reason why. Because somebody benefits from the inefficiencies in the system. If nobody wasn't benefit, that will be fixed tomorrow. But because of the inefficiencies in the system, it allows for corruptibility. And that whole process is not the minister alone. You have to get buy-in from everybody. Because you're taking away a lot of food on the table from some people. So it sounds easy. Licensing offices are easy thing to fix. I'm telling you, I've sat on committees that within 3 months it can be fixed. Passport. There's no reason why today we're supposed to be still lining up to get our passport.
But somebody benefits.
Somebody benefits because the way the system, the bureaucracy allows for someone to grease a hand to get their form right up on top. But now, let me. Why today, if you get a ticket, you can't pay it
Online? I have no idea.
But you don't think that's an easy thing to do?
I would think that would have been very simple.
But if that happens, it take away a lot of...
And I wonder about it because we have a Ministry of Technological...
Digital transformation,
right. I always wonder about that. I find not many things are being digitally transformed.
You see, government and governance is two different things. So not all the time they can blame government. They might have all the best intention and pass the legislation, but they don't execute. You know, they are the policy makers, they are the managing directors and the owners. The CEOs is the permanent secretary.
The CEOs, in terms of in governance, the CEOs don't change.
Correct. CEOs don't change. Government change. So that's the difference between government and governance. And sometimes we blame government.
Yeah.
But really and truly, they put the policies in place.
Yeah.
Now, yes, they have to get some blame for not putting some policies in place too, right? But that's a real issue.
So, if now, non-energy manufacturing, if I figure out, I plant some lime, I have a field of lime, and I get a recipe for lemonade or limeade or something like that, and I start to bottle it, people start to buy it. If I want to get involved with TTMA, what is the next step I do there?
No problem, come to the TTMA. We could help you tremendously. We could help you with things like bringing in machinery duty-free. We can help you with certification to get your products certified. There are grant facilities in place. Grant facilities up to $500,000. So, you know, because once you start to export, you need certification. To sell in Trinidad, you don't necessarily need it, but you should still get it. But from the time you start to sell a food item, especially, into a country, that country want to know that item has been go through a rigorous process.
So I don't necessarily have to be registered for anything yet. Just go into the TTMA.
Just come. In Trinidad and Tobago, there is no mandatory prerequisite to register your company to be a member of the TTMA. But you should register your company for other reasons. Intellectual property right. You don't want to have your company name Nathan Fruits and then you get to a certain level and somebody take it.
Right.
So intellectual property right. You need to do that. Register your company and that kind of thing. BIR registration. You need to do those prerequisites. So I'm not going to go into that. That is, to me, that's obvious. But you don't have to. But you should go that route, right?
But even without it, I could still come to TTMA. And what's the step? There's a fee to...
There's a fee, depending on the size of your operation. So I assume your small micro operator is less than 1,000 for the year.
That's very low.
Yeah.
All right. So I know somebody, for example, they made their own machine to mince coconut shells into cocoa peat.
Right.
So they're doing that and already packaging some and selling some, and they're wondering how to do further. They come to your register, and you actually would help lead them on to making that company bigger.
Right, so we can help them in a number of capacities. It all depends on what you want to do and the vision that you have. So if you want to move from being a small micro operator selling in your district to be someone who's selling in your borough, or selling in your county, or selling in Trinidad, or selling in Trinidad and Tobago, or selling within the country. It all depends. It all depends on your need. I mean, we will advise you, look to scale. That's the best way to do it. Scaling means reduction in costs. Scaling means efficiency. Scaling means more income. Scaling and exporting means earning your own foreign exchange. And there are different ways to go about doing that. Of course, if you're selling for your own little place, you will be the chief cook, bottle washer, everything. So once you start to scale, you need to look at different departments. You need to HR, more people you employ.
And you'll give that consultancy side of advice too?
Well, once you're a member of the TTMA, we help you. We could help you develop an export plan. We could put you in some training course, very cheap, affordable training course that speaks to financing for dummies, for want of a better word. Now starting because a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people don't even pay themselves and they don't do proper accounting, financing. They think, they're doing this thing and they're operating their accounts in a drawer. And that's the worst thing you could possibly do.
So that sounds, to me, that sounds like there's nearly no drawback to joining the TTMA. Once I'm in any kind of manufacturing, even if I'm on the smallest side of manufacturing, for a small company, $1,000 for the year doesn't sound ridiculous. And it seems like the benefits there are nearly immeasurable to some extent.
I would say so. I mean, I can give you an example of companies that started with us very small and today are exporters through the Caribbean. Camry Glass. A small guy started making tempered glass.
Yeah.
Small operation, came to our trade show probably in 2016, 17. Really small boutique, take us a table boot. Today, he's exporting in Jamaica. He's in Guyana. He set up a showroom in Guyana. Wow. He's the only tempered glass manufacturer in the entire region. He has grown tremendously in 5 years' time. Tremendously.
And you would see a good bit of that has to do with connecting with the TTMA in and of
I
itself.
would like to think so. I mean, obviously, he showed a certain amount of zeal and determination, but that zeal allowed him to come to us. Every time he run up against a wall, he came to us. I mean, he didn't. When you join the TTMA, you have access to trade specialists, lawyer, for simple things, for contracts and those kind of things to guide you through that. I've seen people come to me and lost significant money because they're dealing with someone on the internet. Someone say they want to order, they buy 5 items for them, pay them in advance, and then all of a sudden they say, well, 100 items, but pay in advance now.
Yeah.
Because you buy the raw material and then they pay, and they lost because they're not doing the things the right way. They don't understand the whole concept of method of payments and all these different things. Basic, simple financing will allow you to safeguard those things. We could guide you through those processes.
So, let's make an example. I'm making chow.
Right.
Manufacturing, that's non-energy manufacturing, right?
Right.
I'm making chow. I've reached about as big as I could reach now. The people I have contacts with for the fruits, giving me as much fruits as I have, all the fruits I get, I could sell out. If I come to you and I'm saying I joined the TTMA and I'm looking for a supplier of raw material in fruits, y'all could help even in that avenue too?
What we could do is put you on to regional suppliers if you exhaust everything in Trinidad. I mean, at the end of the day, fruits, for example, we could only put you on to the suppliers we know.
Yeah.
Ultimately, that decision of buying, negotiating at price and those kind of things, we can advise you.
Yeah.
We can tell you what are the comparators. We can tell you what your competitors are.
Yeah.
But ultimately, we don't get any decision between you and your buyer. That pricing arrangement, if you come to us, we could give you advice where that is concerned.
But
we can't
obviously, you're not making the business decisions.
You're doing chow. We know sellers of mango or pineapple.
Yeah.
If you say you can't get it in Trinidad anymore, because we have people who, Trinidad is a country that produces a lot of sauces, right? Green sauces and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We more or less exhaust the suppliers of the raw material, the shadow benny and all these different things. We have people we have put on to other players in Guyana, in Dominica, Dominica, in Jamaica, and able to source their material from there.
That's a very interesting point, because I know someone who started a food business making sauces and spreads, etc., and they were doing well on the customer side. People were pleased with the product, but they were getting their raw materials from the grocery.
Okay.
They were going in the grocery buying Price Plaza or something,
and that's not being economical.
And recently, as the pandemic hit and prices start to climb, the grocery prices become unsustainable for that model. So the person out of what to them was a pretty good business model, they were making a profit, they were expanding. Now they can't make any because the price they would have to sell at now isn't.
Yeah, but you can't stay in Trinidad and get a seller of raw material in Guyana. You have to come on the missions and we created that opportunity for you. We have gone so far to partner with the government to provide a ticket for you, free of charge, for small manufacturers. You pay a hotel, and come on the trade mission and meet the buyers. And there are people doing that.
What you saying there? I hope people taking in this.
We're going to Grenada next week. We have 41 people going. 41 people going. You might ask yourself, well, Grenada is not a big market. Why are they all going to Grenada? Well, some of them going there to sell to Grenada. Some are going for investment opportunity because the government of Grenada they're really and truly creating a lucrative environment to attract investors. A lot of fiscal incentives they're giving for hotels, a number of different things. So some people going for that. Construction is booming in Grenada. So we have some construction people, tire manufacturers, galvanized, roofing.
Wait, when you say manufacturer, are there any services included in there, or is it purely manufacturing?
Well, we have service providers that belong to the TTMA, but they are not classified as a manufacturer, they're classified as an associate member of the TTMA. And they join the TTMA because they see synergies. So the banks, obviously, their major clients are the manufacturers.
Yeah.
So they want to network with these people. So when we have our events like TIC or AGM President's Dinner, that is one opportunity where we bring all manufacturers together, all the CEOs, all the business owners. Just being a member of the TTMA and being in a room with these players, worth your $1,000 for the year. Just being in that room and being able, like, I'm a small player and I get to talk to the CEO of Caribbean Flavors.
Yeah.
You know, and we will do that. We will create those links. We will put you on the same table to have a conversation with them. We will even get, in some instances, angel investors involved in your plan and operation.
To me, the job of the TTMA, as it's sung and explained to me so far, seems like that might be more important to small manufacturers even than the larger ones.
And you know, it's interesting that you're saying that, and what is really sad, if I get 100 calls for the day for assistance, 95 is from the larger ones.
I'm not surprised.
Because they know what they need.
Yeah.
And that's the issue, they know what they need. The smaller ones don't know what they need, and they don't understand the value of what the TTMA could bring to them.
To me, that sounds like the 600 members, 600 is that you have, that's supposed to be doubled by every single person who is making juice. If I'm making juice on the street, I want to be in TTMA. If I'm making, because I said chow because I've seen that around. There are quite a few chow men around, and something I've noticed of recent, I watch the chow industry as a whole. I watch it grow.
Yeah.
I remember when there were some guys with a bucket and a trolley first, and then they got a nice better setup with the large plastic bins and separate. They have this fruit and that fruit and mixing sauces, and then I see some now they have the branding and stuff. That to me sounds like, if I'm in that kind of business, that sounds like I am looking for somebody like the TTMA to give me some pointers on where directly I should go. Something that I notice, at least in my generation, when I look around a bit more, I find I see much more entrepreneurial thinking in the younger generation. This is my opinion. If I were to think back 90s, earlier 2000s, I think Trinidad had more of a culture of you would get a job in the energy sector, or you would get a job as a public servant. But I think more people now are understanding that the energy sector may have a time limit and obviously has a size limit, and the public sector, well, that's the public sector. So when I look around a good bit of my peer levels, a lot of them are in different entrepreneurial avenues, trying their hand at this, trying their hand at that. And to me, if I am looking to try my hand at something, that sounds like TTMA is the perfect place.
TTMA can help a lot of small micro operators. I continue to say that, and we do. We even go out our way to help people who are not even members of the TTMA. Our trade and investment convention last year, we created an opportunity for 15 SMEs, provide the booths for them free of charge, just so they could come and expose the operation. 3 of those people moved from being SMEs that sell domestically, exporting today, just from attending to
From last year to now?
To now. They got export orders, not big.
Big doesn't have to cut it if you didn't
it's
have
up to
it.
them now to take it to another level. But that exposure, they have joined the TTMA since then. But at the end of the day, Nathan, you need to know. You see how you're saying you could see the need for it because you know where you have a vision.
Yeah.
You're saying if you get into this is not the end product. This is the means to the end. And this is what the SMEs need to understand. They need to know that this is where they are, and that is where I want to be. What is going to get me to that level? What is going to get me from moving from selling chow by the corner for 10 people to being... So, let's look at the doubles example.
Yeah.
The man, the alias who first started to sell doubles, I don't know if you know much of his story, but he extrapolated after a couple of years from selling doubles to making bar and selling bar to people who selling doubles.
Yeah.
That is thinking. That's how he had to think.
Yeah.
So the chow man who making chow at the corner,
Yeah.
he need to think like this. In a year time, I'm making chow not to sell retail.
Yeah.
I'm making chow to sell to 10 people who want to sell retail. But there's a vision, that calls for vision, and that calls for hard work.
And I think not only vision, I think that calls for knowledge too. Like some of the people that started in some of those businesses, they had an idea, I'm good at this, I think this would work, and they started, all right. But they don't even have an inkling of what the next step might be. They're on this step and they don't even know, okay, so what, the chow example as we're using, I'm selling this chow today, I have the phone numbers of all of these fruit pickers, I know I could make XYZ amount, right. They don't even know what to do next to take that bigger step.
People, Nathan, again, you had to be in these circles to hear stories. Associated Brands as we know today, Mr. Lovejack, who has 4 companies. He has Charles Candy, he has Sunshine, he have the cereals, cereal conflicts, and he have the biscuits, right?
Yeah.
People don't know. This man started off with, you know what was his first product? And how we have a vision for it?
No.
Bobby. And he's prized the Bobby that you go to a shop and you get 5 cents change. He started with that. That's why, look where he is. And we're talking about in our lifetime.
Yeah.
He started in the late 60s into the 70s. Right? Not our life, my life.
Yeah.
Langston Roach. Look where Langston Roach is today.
Yeah.
Langston Roach started selling in the trunk of his car. Look where Langston Roach is today. His son Roger Roach went into garment production 3 years ago. He has a company called Lazuri now.
Yeah, I know Lazuri.
Lazuri started off with 5 machine operators, 3 just before COVID.
Yeah.
Today, he has 100 and something machine operators, and if he could get 100 more,
he needs it.
Every day he's coming to me. We have an employment vacancy thing at TTMA. Ramesh, I need people who come in looking for jobs.
You'll have an employment vacancy thing at TTMA?
Yeah.
So if someone is looking for employment, they could go to the TTMA?
Come to TTMA, go on our website, job career, and let's see that.
I never knew that.
I don't know.
I never knew that. So, no, because I again, as I was talking about with my generation.
So that's what we bring to, we provide a service to our members. People tell me they're looking for a job in Trinidad. Guys wonder why you can't get a job.
Yeah.
Almost, I would say 50% of my manufacturers want people right now. No, it's not hiring job all the time.
It doesn't need to be.
Right.
It's just as I was saying, sometimes it's the knowledge. Like I know some people are always talking about looking for a job and they don't even know where to look for. I have never heard, and I hope I consider myself kind of knowledgeable. I've never heard that TTMA has a whole listing there you could go.
Yeah, you could come into TTMA Jobs Careers Call, say, list your qualification and a job you look, or there are jobs advertised as well.
Yeah. So, that's on the looking for a job side.
Yeah, I get
of course,
to do your interview.
Yeah.
Right.
But that's on the application side. So that means if I am a member of the TTMA.
And you want employers.
Even if I'm a small and micro enterprise. So far I have 1 employee and I'm looking for the 2nd employee. I could come to TTMA with that too.
Yeah. Right now we have about 40 something manufacturers looking for people. As I tell you, that guy Lazuri, Caribbean Safety Products, same manufacturing PPE. Every day I'm telling you, Nathan, if they could get 100 people, I don't know how far this is going, but he's actually gonna go sooner rather than later to the government to ask for a special dispensation to bring in workers, because he cannot get people.
Because he cannot get enough.
I don't know if people do, but he's advertising right through.
Yeah.
And he just can't get. He just can't get. And he went to 2 trade missions first. He went to a trade mission in Guyana. There's a farmer in Guyana, a large farm that employs over 2,000 people, right? And because they export the product, they have certain sanitizer and they have certain wear. He got the contract for all that. Every time you go into Price Smart and all the t-shirts and things, he's doing really, really well. Really, really well.
And that started, you said, 3 years ago?
3 years ago. With 4 machine operators in a small little place like in here.
Yeah.
And now he has his own big spread.
You see, I think sometimes some people have the idea that like the opportunities for getting big in business, like they're running out or something like that. But 3 years ago, who would have thought you started textiles 3 years ago?
When he started, the amount of pushback he got and people telling him, "But you're going into a dying industry."
Yeah.
But he had a vision. He knew where he wanted to go. He knew where he wanted to be. He knew. A lot of stuff worked for him too. Shipments coming out of China because of COVID stopped, and a lot of things worked for him.
Yeah.
But he took the dive. He took the plunge, and it worked for him.
If you were to recommend to somebody to get into some kind of manufacturing, what do you feel that would be these days?
Well, there are many different avenues that you could get into. I mean, in this day and age, a lot of people looking at IT and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
But that is high end.
Yeah.
Right? But there are other opportunities. I have a manufacturer right now who doing juice. He has reached a stage where he's prepared. If you want juice manufactured, he's manufactured and branding it for you. So you don't even have to buy the machinery. So those fellas thinking outside the box, just to expand, because a lot of people have machinery but excess capacity.
Yeah.
So he gonna continue with his brand, and he said a lot of people don't know that. Bleach. A lot of people go on the shelf and you see 7, 8 different type of things, right? One person does it.
I know of that. I know of that.
One person does it.
Coming out from China, they did that same thing.
I don't know about in Trinidad.
One person in Trinidad.
I'm telling you, I'm not asking you.
So he would be, that person would be very successful in that, and they don't even have to worry about the retailing side of it.
Right, so, and there are avenues. Kariri has facilities where you don't even have to invest in machinery. They're actually making the product. You bring your mold, you bring your plan, you bring your idea, and they will make your product for you, and that's how you get started off. So, you're telling me about somebody making juice or something like that, right? I know a manufacturer who, he's actually advertising, if you want your juice made, come. You can bring your own recipe. He has the machinery, everything. He's making his juice. At the retailer, and you all will be competing.
Yeah.
You all will compete on price and you'll set it up. But he will make the juice. You just have to put your label on it.
Because either way, his machine has extra capacity.
Correct. And the more he produces, the more efficient he is.
So, if I'm making juice and I came to the TTMA could get me into contact with
course,
him. Yeah. So, if I'm making juice right now and I'm using my hand and a mug and a spoon, I could get the opportunity with my same recipe get into contact with someone.
To this person, and they will make the juice along those specifications. Or he will make what he has and you just want the label on it. That is a niche for some people.
Yeah.
Some people might have a niche in a particular area. Let's say geographical location, well, not in Trinidad per se, but let's say in Guyana. Somebody living in the forest area.
Yeah.
Guyana, I don't know if you know, Guyana is 40 times the size of Trinidad. So the main manufacturer in Guyana is in Georgetown, but he's not catering to that. So something like that can happen in that context. So
in the case, like for me, if I have a social media following, I could start a juice, and my juice might be marketed better because I already have the marketing.
Exactly, you're following. People do that with water. A lot of water produced in Trinidad.
Well, technically, isn't that to me how I find that is all water, because water is water. So the fact that water has different labels and different prices is all marketed, in my opinion. Do you all help with marketing too?
Of course.
So if I'm interested in getting into ads, you put me on with advertisers.
We have advertisers, everything in Trinidad, but I thought you were going a different area with that. What we can also help with, there are facilities in Trinidad, and we can put you onto the right people. Like if you go into Barbados, exporting. There are facilities, there are so much things for manufacturers outside there. There are facilities to help you up to 50% of your marketing in a foreign country if you want to penetrate a foreign country. There are so many things. So let's say you're trying to get into Barbados. You don't have to go and spend $100. You can spend $50. And the government, through initiatives that we have asked for, we can help you access foreign exchange through the Exim Bank.
I was hearing that. I saw that. And I remember the government was speaking about that a lot of businesses were complaining, and I heard some people complain about this, they weren't getting the foreign exchange, the requisite foreign exchange in order to buy their raw materials to continue with their business. So, is that access to the Exim Bank a TTMA thing or just a manufacturing?
It's predominantly TTMA. If you belong to the TTMA, it's easy because we'll walk you through the process. You know,
so there's a process to it. And if you're not in TTMA, you can still go through the process. But TTMA would make the process much more straightforward for you.
Well, and you're almost guaranteed through the TTMA because there's a certain level of checks and balances. Remember the government giving these foreign exchange, they want to give it to legitimate manufacturers. They belong to the TTMA. We will do our due diligence.
You're already seen as a legitimate
so
manufacturer.
So you already have a whole jump ahead of everybody else.
So many things I'm hearing here, and for me, what it seems like is I don't think a lot of the people that need to know that know that.
That's true. I mean, but I don't know what else. I mean, we can always. It's not to say we're looking to get more people come to the TTM that we're stopping anybody to come, right? Because to be honest with you, if we have more than what we have now, we might have I will grow TTM to an extent. And I guess that could be done. But really and truly, as I said, we don't turn away anyone. If someone come to the TTMA, even if they're not a member of the TTMA, we will still help you as much as we can. Of course, we will encourage you to join the TTMA for obvious reasons. I mean, if I extended resources to assist you and you have a competitor in the TTMA who paying dues to the TTMA, you say, Ramesh, why are you helping my competitor and you're not part of our, you know, those are the little things that you have to deal with. But at the end of the day, we want to grow manufacturing in Trinidad. So our mandate really and truly is to promote manufacturing, promote exports in Trinidad and Tobago. So some of the facilities that we could provide guidance to, like with Export TTD, Exim Bank, and that kind of thing. Even if you're not a member of the TTM, we will still give you the guidance of where those things are concerned.
And with you being on the board of NEDCO, which is National Entrepreneurial Development Company, that sounds like the stepping block to TTMA to some extent.
So one of the main facilities that we had at NEDCO recently was the grant facility for people who would have come out of COVID and had some challenges. Up to $20,000 for a small micro operator, just to make sure that they get.
How would you be recognized as a small micro operator?
So that's an interesting question. In Trinidad, there are a number of different definitions. Right now, I have my staff doing an exercise to standardize that whole process. Generally, small micro operators between 1 to 5 persons employed.
And in manufacturing.
In manufacturing.
And in order, for example, the grant program that you're talking about, that's a registered company also?
Well, not necessarily, because they started off like that, saying that you need to have certain prerequisites like being registered and all those different things. But a lot of the small micro operators.
That's why I asked the question.
So, you know, we revise it and we make it more palatable to people who are not there as yet.
Because I was asking the question about registration because to me, when the small micro, what would be considered as small and micro operations that I am aware of, probably the vast majority of them aren't registered or anything like that. They started with an idea and they're pushing down the idea route before they go down the business avenue as you were talking about.
So what happens is that NEDCO has some checks and balances. They just have to do their checks and balances to ensure that you're legitimate. So you'd be surprised at the amount of people as Trinidadians are really tricky at that.
Yes, I was watching some over the last 2 years or so, watching headlines out of the Ministry of Social Development, and every year's this amount of millions missing and this amount of millions missing. So I don't doubt that once you have grants, you're going to get some tricksters coming out of the woodwork.
But besides NEDCO, right, there's another facility that the government that again, TTMA lobbied for the medium to larger players, which is the loan facility through the commercial bank, interest-free loan up to 7 years.
And so I would guess medium then would be greater than 5 employees.
Yeah. So anywhere 5 to 100, medium up. So you have micro, small, medium, large.
Yeah.
So the small to medium can access this facility, and it's an interest-free loan for 7 years. You don't have to pay anything. 7 years, imagine that.
I heard about that. And when I was listening to me,
that one call for a more registration, though.
I would hope so.
Because the money is not up to 20,000.
And you have to pay it back too. So they would want to make sure that you could pay it back.
But you only pay back the principal. So if you borrow $5, you pay back $5. You have no interest.
That means if I'm a medium-sized operation in Trinidad and Tobago, and I'm sure about my business plan, I could get $700,000. Is 700 up to 700?
I don't remember, but I think 700 falls within the...
Up to somewhere around there, with nothing extra to pay back.
Nothing extra. Government is paying the interest.
And 7 years to pay it.
And you have 7 years to pay back.
Do you need a business plan or anything for that, or you just
you have to have your business up. You can't.
No. Your business is up and running.
Yeah.
But let's say I have a medium-sized operation. It's already up and running, but I'm looking to so, example, you're talking about the guy that started off with 4 machines. Let's say I have 4 machines or something. I'm doing some kind of manufacturing, but I feel the nature of how my business is going. If I could get 5 more machines, it would be useful. I could just go get that loan for those 5 more machines.
Yeah, but you need to show the correlation between the money that you're borrowing and what you're going to do.
Yeah.
So you can't go and borrow the money and go back out.
Obviously.
Right? So obviously there's some checks and balance in place there.
But once it's for your
operation. Yeah.
So why aren't there more manufacturers in Trinidad and Tobago?
Trinidad and Tobago tend to be the entrepreneur class generally are not risk takers. You know, and we suffer from something called the Dutch disease in Trinidad and Tobago, where far too often our emphasis is placed on the energy sector. Now we are seeing people move away from that, but everything was energy based. As you said, 20 years ago, everybody going to school is energy based. Now you're starting to get a little thing moving away from that. But there's other issues that we face today. What we have today is that a lot of the established business are second generation families and that kind of thing. But you're seeing 3rd generation and 4th generation are not here in Trinidad anymore because of crime. So people separate. So you're going to have some problems down the road. So all those things, we need to look at the policymakers in Trinidad and Tobago. They want to get involved in politics. And to start thinking like that. We need to understand that if we don't solve this major problem that is called crime, the devastation that we will face as an economy 10 years down the road wouldn't necessarily be because of lack of funding. You could have all the funding, but people wouldn't want to live here.
I could see that. As you say that, I'm thinking about it. If I'm a manufacturer, I think as a non-energy sector manufacturer, I might be more at risk of crime than if even somebody who's making the same amount of money as me but working in the energy sector, because I have a lot of moving parts as a manufacturer. There are lots of moving parts. There's a van going here, a van coming back from there.
And that allows for you to be paying for this item $10 when it should only be $5.
So, is it possible some of the prices that people complaining about, where you see differences in different places, might even have something to do with the crime here?
Nathan, 15 years ago to 20 years ago, I did recently we have been having conversation with the supermarket, and they told me 15 years to 20 years ago, you know how much they expend per supermarket for security on the average? 10,000, 15,000 on the average. Today, they expend over 150,000 per supermarket because they have to have gun security, guard security, dog security, night security, camera system, alarm system, emergency response. If they're opening till 10 o'clock, they have to drop the workers home. Think about all those things. They're not absorbing that cost.
Yeah, the cost has to pass down.
Inevitably, it's going to pass down. You know, I keep telling you, the inefficiencies that we have in our system drive up manufacturers in Trinidad. And I keep saying this for anybody who listens to us. At the factory gate, we are efficient as anybody else in this part of the world.
Yeah.
It's the inefficiencies that exist outside of the factory gate, moving the good from the factory gate to the retail level. That is where all the markup tend to come in. 20 years ago, you could have moved 4 containers from a Rima industrial estate to the port on an average day. Because of congestion on the roads, if you move 1, 2, you're good. Think about that. That's a cost.
Yeah.
Inefficiencies on the port. I am not Nostradamus, but I can guarantee you the port is going to strike in November this year. Because that is the time business need the port to be most efficient.
Yeah.
And that is the time they will agitate to get the back pay and everything. We don't, the average man don't see that.
Yeah.
And that inefficiency in the port, when I have 4 containers piled up to move on, it's not being moved.
Yeah.
It's a cost to me, especially if it's perishable goods. I will pay whatever it is to move my perishable goods.
Yes. I have a friend of mine. He has a business, not manufacturing, repairing, I think, phones. And he brought in a truck because he's looking to do a mobile repair kind of thing. And he was telling me he brought in the truck on his own. So, you know, in Trinidad, if you don't have... So he brought it in on his own and they trap it on the port.
There you go.
And every day it stays there.
It's damage, it's costing them.
And he has to go and speak to this one. And this is something that frustrates me in Trinidad and Tobago, as you speak about the difficulties in some of those things. And I found this was a problem even when I was in university in UE. I found this a problem even in UE, where like no person knows the process.
They know, but they need to allow the bureaucracy to happen. Because if it don't happen, there won't be the greasing of the hand. Nobody will benefit. I have a manufacturer who shipped some rice to Jamaica about 8 years ago. The rice went that way. They're supposed to send hypothetically 100 pounds bags, right? They send 50 pound bags. So they send the wrong size. So Jamaica said no, they send it back because that rice don't sell. In Jamaica, they prefer the hypothetical situation I'm quoting. The rice had to come back here. Nathan was 3 containers of rice. It stayed on the port to clear. 6 months. By the time it was cleared, all the rice went. Rice that leave here and went there, just come back within a week. It takes 6 months. When you're shipping something from Trinidad that was produced in Trinidad that going to Jamaica, you need to show certain certification that this goods originated here. So when it goes into Jamaica, it pays no duty. Yeah. But if the good coming back, the custom need to satisfy themselves is the same thing that and that process. And I was advised that they could have gotten it in a day if they really wanted to do it. The guy said, let it rot. He's not going to do anything extraordinary to get his rice.
Oh, so, and when you say if they really wanted to do it, you mean if they were willing to...
You can interpret that how you want.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not going to make any accusations.
So,
they could have gotten it.
If we could magically bring down crime 50%, bring down traffic congestion 50%, those 2 things alone might have a lowering effect on prices, at least coming from the manufacturing sector.
Let me use a more blanket statement. If we could solve the ease of doing business in Trinidad, and by that you could categorize certain things with regards to ease of doing business. Crime is one, bureaucracy is another one. Why does it take, if an investor want to come to Trinidad to start a business today, if you could get that done within 2 years, that's good.
2 years?
Nathan, these things are supposed to take a month. I might have an investor bringing his money to come and say, you want to go to EMA, you want to get WASA clearance, you want to get this one, you want to get TNTEC, you want to get...
But doesn't every government talk about trying to get more foreign investment in?
Exactly that. You hear these things and it sounds like, so just solve ease of doing business. You made a statement just now, I didn't want to interrupt you. You said government should be there, and you use a different word, but I'm going to use the word facilitate. Government should be there just to create the frameworks to facilitate. That is what government real role should be. Facilitate, create the enabling environment for business to grow.
I remember, you're saying this and something is clicking to me. A bit of another podcasting, I watched a business lady, very good at business. She came out from Senegal or some one of those African countries. I think Magat or something is her name. Went to the US, got very wealthy there, then felt like, she wanted to go back to Africa to do business there. And she now is on a campaign to try and change laws in Africa, because she was making the point that people say Africa is so corrupt to do business and etc. etc. And she's saying that the people are no more corrupt than the people in Chicago or something like that. That was the example she was making. It's that the legal framework they adopted makes ease of doing business so difficult that corruption becomes the only alternative.
Exactly. I have a businessman, prominent businessman in Trinidad and Tobago. He has a line in his accounting framework that he labels incentivizing the process, and it's 25% of his cost of production, cost of operation. So imagine if you take that off, he could produce a good 25% less. These are the things that happen. You're talking about Africa and the corruptibility there, and something just came to me. World Cup just finished, and if you heard the story about Mbappe and his father. What he said about why he didn't play for his home country. Because he had to pay to get his son to go and try international.
And the Swiss player, there's a Swiss player that scored against Cameroon and he didn't celebrate because he was originally Cameroonian. And it was the same problem.
So that speaks to what we're talking about. It's not just a production of goods, it's in services and everything. We need to figure out, and you see, we don't realize that inefficiency affects. One man might benefit from the inefficiency, but the amount of people it affects.
Yeah, I agree. Because, the one man who is might be getting something extra from greasing the wheels, all right, he might benefit. But then there are innumerable people, because that's hard to even calculate how many people are affected directly, then indirectly, by everything being slowed down. It's just very difficult to get anything started. And, for example, if you have the corruption that is inbuilt in the bureaucracy of the system needs that corruption to function. Then a consequence of that is the police service cannot function perfectly above board because the system requires corruption to function. If a businessman has a line in his book about making things easier, the police must understand, well, you don't harass business people about that. So then now you have to automatically compromise the police service. And then when you compromise the police service on the bureaucratic corruption side, it is going to trickle over onto the violent side. So I could see in that sense a link between something as simple as the bureaucracy and making it difficult to do business and even the violence we have. Because when people talk about the crime in Trinidad, they're usually talking about violent crime. Because corruption is crime too.
Yeah.
And what it seems is that the system is engineered in a way to encourage that level of corruption, which has to be bypassed, which would lead to the ignoring of the violent side of crime too.
You're right. Everything is kind of related. But the question becomes, if the businessman don't try to get his container cleared, what is the alternative? If he's just wait and let his perishable, it's really hard, And imagine a small micro operator who this container is his life-saving. It's really hard.
I was thinking of that. You said 3 containers went and stayed for 6. Like, I'm thinking, if somehow I took a risk, as you were talking about risk takers, I took a risk because somehow I believed that this was a pretty sure investment. And even though it got sent back, I was like, okay, I'll send back one and I'll still make the profit. 6 months a container stop, and that writing you off unless you have a good buffer. That might be the end of it there for you.
Correct. Yeah.
So how many businesses, as I was asking why there aren't more manufacturers, that makes me wonder how many people probably started, because I don't know about some of those difficulties you're talking about there. So I could have looked at, with my blissfully ignorant self running, and then stumble upon the difficulties and decide it isn't worth it for me. I wonder how many of them.
Exactly. Well, I can't answer that question, but I'm sure that is a major factor as well in answering the question why more people not get into the business.
Yeah.
That level of that hurdle, for want of a better word, to cross. A lot of them probably see that and shy away from getting.
And as you see, the third and fourth generations, you're seeing more and more they're leaving.
That to me, Nathan, that is a frightening phenomenon, because I'm seeing business people not getting their children into business and saying, well, I will close up because my children don't want to come back.
Yeah.
I'm sending them to study to come back, but they don't want to come back. And I in fact, a lot of them saying, I don't want them to come back too.
But I don't blame some. Like, to me, if I'm thinking about this and ignoring the patriotic side of something, but you're thinking about this as a family person. If I have the resources for my child to go and live a wealthy life in a first world country where the crime is nearly non-existent, and the way how the world is structured now, I may not even need to close down my business. I could probably still run my business here, and now I'm moved over and I'm living somewhere else. But then, wouldn't that create a business that once would have been producing resources for Trinidad, now basically is a drain on Trinidad, sending resources out?
You're absolutely right. But more importantly, what it also results in is a brain drain. Because these people who are going to get educated outside are not coming back.
Yeah.
What will remain?
Yeah.
The people with the educated people who are supposed to come back and bring value to Trinidad and Tobago and help move Trinidad and Tobago forward are not coming back. So it left for the average man, for want of a better word, to now try to pick up the pieces, and they will try as best as they can, but without the exposure of higher education, tertiary education, they're not getting that, and it's no fault of theirs, they just not have the access to it. They have to now find themselves in positions to run a ministry or do something. And it's, somebody mentioned something to me not too long ago. They were saying, if they identify certain politicians, they say, would you take a politician like that to run your business? And the answer was generally no. But we vote this politician in to run the country business. And when the person say it like that, it really hit home. We're saying that this person can run my business that is a $3 million business, but you're running the business of Trinidad and Tobago that is $57 billion.
Something that I notice on a similar note to that is I find that very often, and I say this more about unionists, but I notice the same thing with politicians. Very often, the way they would run the country's business, many of those politicians have private businesses on their own.
They want to run their private business.
And they will not run their private business like that. Similarly, with some of the union leaders, I know some of them have businesses, and the way they run their business is not the rhetoric you hear from them in the union. And that's some of the problems with politics. That's why for me, my political view, when I do the lives and stuff and people ask about my view on politics, I think some of how Trinidad views politics is some of the reason why we keep getting more licks with the politics. Because where we were talking about the job of politics is to facilitate, for the most part, the job of government. Many people in Trinidad, I think, have that colonial daddy government kind of view where they want the government to take care of everything. And the more the government takes care of, the more power they have, the more ability they have to tamper with more things.
You're describing what is called dependency syndrome.
Yeah.
That is really and truly what you're describing there. That is a significant game of politics.
Yeah.
Politicians are not stupid people, They understand this game better than anyone.
They do.
But it's a sad state of affair because really and truly, Trinidad has a lot going for it. And we need to manage our resources. We have a lot of bright people here, but we have to be careful. because brain drain gonna cause a significant problem for us 10 years, 15 years from now. I can tell you, most of the people that I went to school with are not in Trinidad. And that's because they don't want to be here, but the circumstances are not inviting for them to be here. And that's sad.
So may I ask you, why are you still here?
I like Trinidad. My neighbor string berry in Trinidad, I will say. So let me start with that. And I really think where I am, while doing at the TTMA, I can make a difference for the business community in Trinidad and Tobago. I really, truly, firmly believe that. But I also have a fundamental ideology that speaks to that if I'm not pleased with something, I shouldn't run away from it. If it has to change, you change and start with me. I really have that philosophy in who I am. So in anything I do, if I see something is not right and I don't feel like I fix it, I move away from it.
Yeah.
But if I feel like if it's not right and I want to be in it, it's because I want to be in it to fix it. If I can't fix it or I don't believe it can change, then I will move away from it. I don't think I reached a stage for myself in Trinidad as well. I think it could be fixed.
Yeah.
Because I started off the conversation by saying that we still have a lot happening for us in Trinidad. We have to be careful how we manage the little that we have, the resources. There are some good things, that energy find, that dragon free thing. Those things are good things.
Right before we close, what's your view on the dragon field?
I think it's a step in the right direction. It's a baby step. I don't think people fully acquiesce or understand what it means. It means that the government of the United States have opened the door for us to have discussions and negotiations with the Venezuelan. That is a big hurdle to cross. You know, many things could happen with that negotiation. Venezuela, they will be coming to the table expecting something in return.
We didn't negotiate the dragon oil deal, the dragon gas deal already?
There's so many conversations that has taken place, would have taken place, and it's done in secrecy. We don't know what was done. Nobody never come back and tell us where we are with these things. I guess understandably so, because some of these things need to be done like that until you sign on the dotted line, right?
Just pause right there. You're saying that. I was reading an article Monday this week, an energy expert, I can't remember his name, was in the energy conference, and he was talking about, similar to what we're talking about here, he was saying that the problem for Trinidad in the oil and gas sector is governance. He was pointing that out. And he was talking about deals like that, where he was saying we do so many deals where so much of it is in secrecy because they say it needs to be in secrecy. But one, it seems like he doesn't believe that. And he was saying that the laws and policies that we have governing some of these deals are just as you were saying, 1960 and 1970. So even in the secrecy, I watch so many things on that side, and I'm like, okay, I understand in business, yes, there's that level of secrecy, but when you're dealing with the public's money, how much secrecy can there be?
Well, that's true, but if you're in a negotiation, sometimes you can only disclose when you complete the negotiation, and I don't think the talks were completed. But there was one thing the Prime Minister said that we need to take note of, and I think is an important point to make, that he made, right? And he cited Japan. Japan is a rock. Japan has no natural resources, but they are some of the largest manufacturers because they bring in the raw material, add value, and export. So they bring in the raw material. Let's say they bring in 2 parts, 5 cents and 5 cents, put it together and sell it for 25 cents. So the 2 parts cost them 10 cents. The labor and intellectual power cost them 5 cents, so like 15 cents, and they're able to sell it for. We don't need to be producers of gas to be a big player in urea, methanol, and ammonia, and downstream derivative of gas. It's like a raw material. Because in manufacturing, we don't have the inputs anyhow.
And, you know...
So that's something because we have an advantage over all our neighbors. We have point pieces. The infrastructure, the sound cost is there. We can't underestimate that.
They were talking about that. The pipeline required, Shell pipeline from Venezuela to
it's closer than to where it needs to go to Venezuela.
So it's already there. It's already there. I was noting something very interesting in that they were saying we can't pay cash payments to Venezuela.
Well, that will be interesting now. If you read carefully the Reuters report, it says that Venezuela shouldn't benefit financially from this.
That's already.
So that is being interpreted in a number of different people using cash. Now, from where I sit as a manufacturer, there are advantages to Trinidad and Tobago. About 10 years ago, we had an arrangement with Venezuela where we sell them manufactured products and that kind of thing. The government, the Prime Minister actually said that there are opportunities now that we don't have to give them cash, but we can probably pay them in kind or a barter system, or we take their gas and pay them in ammonia, some of the finished products. There are many different ways. Buyback arrangement, barter system. From where I sit as a manufacturer, we know Venezuela need goods and services. We produce signal. So if the government want to get into arrangement to buy,
that may be an opportunity for them.
Of course, definitely. Conversations need to be had about that, because manufacturers who are producing now would say, well, you need to pay me 1/10 of my in hard currency, because they need hard currency to buy the raw material. So that kind of conversation needs to be had. Because if I expending to get more raw material for an exchange, I need to earn some foreign exchange. So that kind of conversation. So I've seen great opportunities there. It's going to be interesting. I really believe this dragon field deal has potential. I think it's going to take at minimum 2 years to turn over, but I think it has breathed life back into the energy sector, especially the gas sector. Because if you look at I don't know if you follow it, but the proven reserve we have, I think is about 12 years. That could breed a further 15, 20 years unless we find more gas in Trinidad or we explore more border arrangements.
But as you were saying there, that could be the jumping off platform to take Trinidad into another at least partially into another direction, where we already have the infrastructure to put value added onto the raw material, and we bring in the raw material, do that and send it out, and we don't even have to worry about what is in our soil anymore in that sense.
That is definitely some things to look forward to, but there are some negatives. Every time there's some exogenous shock that propels gas or the energy sector, we turn a blind eye to the non-energy sector. So we need to ensure that we continue to develop the non-energy sector. That's one thing. And that's the whole Dutch disease issue that we need to safeguard against. We can't continue to put all our eggs in that basket because we are not priced. Because today the price of ammonia, urea, methanol are high, right? The gas prices are high, all these different things. If supply is no longer an issue, but pricing becomes an issue, we run into a problem. So what we need to do is safeguard ourselves against that. Make sure that the revenues we get in from that, the gas sector in the next 5 to 10 years, we use it wisely. And what I mean by that, 3 things. One is use it to diversify the economy. Make sure...
How does that happen? How does the government use money to diversify the economy?
Create the enabling environment for business. For non-energy business. There are many things you could do. You could fix a lot of stuff. You remember that what we talk about ease of doing business? A lot of those things need some injections financially and technically and all these things. Use the money to fix those things. Fix customs. Make your port it's sad to tell you, Trinidad and Tobago in Port of Spain have 3 cranes working. In Jamaica, I came back from Jamaica not too long ago. Jamaica has something like 26 cranes. Cranes is what is move containers. If you have 3 cranes moving containers, that could create backlog if you have plenty containers. If you start producing your containers to move, you only have 3. That's one simple. Get a world-class port. We could propel the non-energy sector, not just in money, tourism, sports tourism, there are many things we could do. But I tell you there are 3 issues. So that's one thing we need to do, diversify the economy with the revenues. The second thing that we need to do is to ensure that we put injections in the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. If we get in the money that we think we get in 10 years' time, we should move from $6 billion in our Heritage and Stabilization Fund to $20 billion. If we really get any kind of monies that I think we could get. In every year, in 20 years, we should be adding at minimum $1 billion. And the third thing we need to do, and this is the hard one, because it has politics involved in it, don't go back or go deeper into this dependency dream and become a welfare society again, where we are inclined now to move expenditures from $57 billion budget to $100 billion budget. And government, because politics is tied up in that kind of thing. So, though to me, if I am to give the government any advice with this potential windfall that we have, safeguard against these three things.
Yeah.
Use the funds wisely to diversify the economy and have different streams of income when energy goes south again, either because of prices falling or production falling. 2, put money into the Heritage and Stabilization Fund. Don't do like what we're supposed to have over $50 billion in our. So make sure you prioritize that.
Yeah.
And 3, don't be lured into becoming a welfare society, and every time they can hire you, give them something.
The thing is,
you spoil your citizens, they get lazy,
yeah,
and we're not being productive.
The thing is, how they're gonna campaign? Nearly all of Trinidad, that is what I was talking about with Trinidad political habits. Nearly all of the campaigning in Trinidad politics is about literally promising what you said shouldn't be done.
I don't know why it's hard, but you can't have a society where, you see, Nathan, we're reaching a stage where we're taxing the compliant more because of the inefficiencies in the system that don't allow you to capture the net that is being escaped.
Yeah.
So you paying your tax and I pay my tax, but the government want $1, but we're paying 50 cents each.
Yeah.
And 10 other people ain't paying the 50 cents. They want to tax us more to make up that difference instead of, because again, politics involved in it, right? There are many people in Trinidad and Tobago not paying electricity.
Yeah.
I mean, I could tell you, I've seen studies. Many people, many, and if you go in some of these areas, they have cable, direct TV, everything.
Yeah.
And they're not paying and the government not doing anything about that. I understand the politics. Listen, we're not going to go into that, right? It's just sad, but you cannot tax the compliant.
Yeah.
You cannot tax them more because inevitably you're raising price, you're raising gas, you're raising manufacturers can say, well, I have to pass this on, and it's So to me, when the government say they need to be more efficient, and as a result, they're raising prices of electricity, so TNTech could be more efficient. I have that raised red flag in my head. Because let me tell you, if the government's saying they need to get more money to make TNTech more efficient, so they're going to raise prices. The first question come to me is that raised price, that raised price will lead to more income. Is that going into TNTech? We operate like that in Trinidad. That goes into the consolidated vote. That will go to TNTech directly, you know. That goes into the pool of the revenues the government have. So when the government tell me they're raising revenue to make TNTech more efficient, no, they can say it will go to the consolidated vote and give a bigger pie. They can say that, but that is easier said than done. It's not TNTech alone you have to see after. You have to see about the plethora of things our government has to say about. So you might take my money to pay VAT. You might take my money to prop up some other inefficiency.
You know, you say that. The previous conversation, I had one previous conversation with Mr. Kwesi Robinson, chairman of Tunapuna Piako Regional Corporation. And I was asking him about the property tax with a consideration to that. Because property tax, if you're telling me I'm living here, I have to pay some money to the people that are in charge of keeping the roads and drains around my community. And I'm paying them the money right there, and I see them fix my roads and drains.
That's no problem.
No problem. But our property tax, as they announce it, is going to go into the government's.
The consolidated vote,
So then how do I know this is really for more?
What the government will say is that if I would have normally give Piako $10, I give them $12 now.
Yeah,
that's
easier to say.
But we don't want to go that far. You know, we all pay a tax at the pump to fix road. You know that when you buy
at
gas.
The gas pump?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I think it's 5 cents or something like that. So every dollar you spend, 5 cents supposed to go into a special thing to fix roads.
But that goes into the consolidated.
But it goes into the consolidated fund. So to me, if you're talking about this whole borrow, it called for constitutional reform. So they could tax the owner. It's like It's like in the United States. Each county, so like if you get a ticket in Georgia, that money goes to Georgia. And Georgia use that money to fix the road or whatever. But that calls for constitutional reform in Trinidad. That is a whole different
Well, I think that the only way those things make sense is with the constitutional reform. I think to attempt to say we're going to collect more money and somehow by collecting more money it's going to increase the efficiency magically, I don't see that making any sense to me. That does not make any kind of sense to me.
Well, I don't know. Apart from that, I don't know if more money can enhance efficiency.
That's the neutral thing.
Right?
Yeah.
Don't let me say it can't. It could definitely help, but money alone is not what enhances efficiency.
That's according to
you
what
can pour more money into something and...
Yeah, it's according to what the problem was in the first place. Right. If the problem was a problem that required money to fix, but if it's inefficient workers, if it's inefficient policies, if it's an inefficient system, putting more money into the inefficient system isn't going to make it function any better. So, I don't know about that either. Anyway, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Dr. Ramesh. You go by doctor very often or you prefer Mr.?
Just Ramesh is cool.
Thank you very much, Ramesh. This was a pleasure.
Same here.
Thank you.